Hello and welcome in, everybody. We have a fantastic debate getting ready to go ahead between the white pill and the black pill. Now, no introduction today. We have some assets in the works. We're going to get some of that coming along. We do have an idea for the new debate channel to be set aside, but this is going to be the first debate we are going to have here on the channel. It's going to be between Dark Cell and Josh Vandernord. But a couple announcements for some housekeeping before we get into everything. We are now monetized, at least for the first level here at NAV. So the NAV Creators channel is now monetized. We're not getting ad money yet, but we can do super chats and I believe memberships as well. So super chats now being a function of the channel, we are now going to incorporate those super chats. And so my goal is actually try to, every 25 to 30 minutes, anyone who has a super chat that is pertaining to the debate or would be a question to one of the debaters, we will go through that. So expect every 25 to 30 minutes. If you guys do super chat in, we will get to those as we can every about 25 to 30 minutes. But for the debate itself, incel debate, should incels give up? That is the overview of the debate. A white pill outlook, a optimistic, positive outlook of understanding. We understand there's problems with women, but we should strive to continue and do better. On the other side of that is a black pill view of that. An understanding of how everything is kind of effed and how should men operate. Is there even anything worth men striving for? So we're going to explore that between Dark Cell and Josh Vandernord. And joining me right now, here are both of them. We're going to go ahead and give the opening statement to Dark Cell, who's here on my left-hand side, and then Josh Vandernord will have the follow-up statement, his opening statement on the right-hand side after Dark Cell. And we're going to go ahead and get that started. So without further ado, let's go ahead and have Dark Cell give your opening statement.
Hey guys, how's it going? The name's Dark Cell, and I appreciate both Atlas and Josh for having me, as well as Nav in general. Thank you for having me. I am black-pilled. I am an incel. Pretty standard. Just look at me. Definitely an incel. And what I'm going to say about the black pill is, one, yes, it can be nihilistic. Two, depends on how you take it. When you consume the black pill, it doesn't necessarily mean you're a negative person, a pessimistic person, nihilistic, whatever, what have you. Fact of the matter is, going from the red pill to the black pill is a very tricky thing. I remember when that happened to me. It wasn't angry, sort of, it's not friendly neighborhood. You don't feel friendly neighborhood. You go from that to an angry back alley more so. And so it makes sense. You go down a rabbit hole, very frustrated, very angry. Now, why is the black pill better than, let's say, the white pill or the red pill or really any of these other pills that you've ever heard of? Black pill is simply the harsh reality. Now, once again, depending on how you take it, that's on you on an individual level. But as a collective, the black pill is simply things we cannot understand, or really most of us do not want to understand. And so people like me, at least me, I can't speak for others, but at least for myself, I believe that telling men, specifically men, and the world just in general, that the world is not the way it seems. It is not forgiving. We do not live in a fairy tale. We live more in like a slasher film, if more so than a superhero film. I know I'm wearing the Spider-Man mask, but bear with me. We live in a slasher film. We do not live in the MCU or whatever you think it is. This isn't Braveheart. This is nasty. This is nasty. This is 300. It is what it is. And so the way I look at black pill, once again, it's dark reality. It's harsh reality. It's not your friend. Never claim to be your friend. I've never claimed to be your friend. No one here is your friend. We're all in this alone. And that is how the world works. And that's all I got.
Alrighty. Well, thank you for your opening statement there, Dark Cell. We're going to go ahead and turn over to Josh. Josh, your opening statement.
Thanks for having me, Atlas. Happy to be here for the first debate on the Nav channel. And I just want to, my opening statement is that all women are queens. No woman has done anything wrong ever, and OnlyFans is based. I am just kidding. That's all satire, as they say. Essentially, what it comes down to is, actually, we were on a little bit of a call beforehand. We were talking about this debate, and I was asking Dark Cell, I was like, what exactly is it? What is your position? And we were kind of going back and forth on that. And the truth is a lot of the preliminaries that, like, the state of women, the state of the world. We don't necessarily live in a fairy tale. I agree with all of those things. But where the split is, so to speak, is we can get into the specifics about the nature of women, the nature of social media, the nature of men, and just everything that goes on in the world, the state of things as they exist now. We can get into all of that. We can go back and forth. But essentially, it comes down to this: is it is a woman's imperative to perpetuate herself and, more specifically, her offspring. It is a man's imperative to empire build. And I know that's kind of baseline. I know that encompasses a lot of things, but this is the state of it. And we live in a fallen world. I myself am a Christian, and it comes down to essentially that we don't live in a fairy tale, but there is a light at the end of the tunnel. And though that may not necessarily mean that you're going to get everything you want. You're born and we're all sold this narrative, this picture perfect Disney movie about what your life should and will be like. And the truth is that is simply part of our nature and imperative as men to understand where women are and why women are the way that they are. But in spite of those truths, it is incumbent on us to look past them, not to ignore them, but to understand them and to move forward. And what does moving forward mean? Moving forward means pushing through, recognizing what you need to do. A man is a counter to a woman. Men and women are designed to complement each other. But what does that mean? It means that they are opposites. And it means that because of their opposition, this ultimately brings about the best of the two positives and negatives, so to speak. I hope that makes sense. But with anything, to wrap up my opening statement, I would say things are very black pilled right now, but at the end of the day, Christ is king.
Thank you very much for that, Josh. I appreciate it. So what we're going to do with this opening structure, it's going to kind of get a little bit free, if you will. Maybe it's a bit of a less structure. But what I would like to do, we have an opening question. We're going to turn this back over to Dark Cell, give Dark Cell 2 minutes to respond to this question. Then we will turn back to Josh, give Josh 2 minutes to respond to this question, and then we will reconvene and we will let them go at it in terms of their differences, what they have with this. So here is the opening question to both of you. Should men pursue marriage in 2025? Dark Cell.
In 2025, no. But if you were asking me 100 years ago, of right now, but 100 years ago, and me and Josh were around right then and there, we had, in my opinion, more opportunities, not less, in terms of getting in relationships. Smaller communities back then, not so much communities nowadays. So what exactly is the incentive of getting married? And before you maybe assume I'm red pill or even the MGTOW, which I think are probably the most cringe group out there, by the way. MGTOW is trash. Men do not get to decide on marriage. Men do not get to decide on women. It is a genetic lottery. It's based on genetic determinism. It's you could call it fate if you really want to go down that road. And so when it comes to marriage, it doesn't matter if you want to get married. Who's getting married? I mean, women don't even really want to get married. They look at it as more of a sort of a highlight, like I can share this on my Instagram, my social media. Whereas men, I believe, when they want to get married, they actually want to get married. So is it that I don't think men should get married? Only because I don't think women actually want to get married. And assuming the opportunity even comes up for you, the man, then it's like you got to question, is this somebody I am going to be with? And is this a state marriage, or are we talking about the covenant? Like, what are we talking about? What type of marriage are we talking about? Because if it was based on actual religion and actual principle, and there's actually consequences for divorce, there's consequences for hitting your spouse, abusing your kids. If there was actual consequence under a church, for example, I would say yes, I would pursue it if it was under that. But since we are it's state and secular, and the fact that the government has a gun to your head constantly when you're in marriage, and I'm talking about the man, no, not in 2025. Once again, if this was 100 years ago, I would have a different attitude. I would not be wearing this mask, and I would be talking to Josh with my actual face.
Word. Okay. All right, Josh, your 2 minutes.
Yes, I think men and women should get married if that is what you are called to. I think that all women should be married and most men should be married. Some men are called to higher things, as is stated by St. Paul. But essentially, it boils down to if you are going to get into a relationship, especially a sexual relationship, it doesn't matter what century, time of day, or what era we're living in. What is moral is what is moral, and what is moral is what is prescribed to us by our Creator. And what our Creator, God the Father, Jesus Christ, the Holy Spirit, what they say is in order to have the most godlike and fulfilling relationship, that is a man and a woman in the confines of the legally binding contract of matrimony. And while I would agree with Dark Cell that in 2025, I'll try not to get long winded here, but like this was actually a debate I was having with a family member recently where, one of my family, like someone I know who's close to me, they're living with a significant other before marriage. And this other person was like, well, why don't they just elope? To me, if you're a Christian, eloping it's like, I think there's something special and divine about marriage. And I think that the celebration, the actual wedding, is really when the marriage is. Signing a piece of paper, I mean, our government allows homosexual marriage. Like, what the United States says about marriage doesn't mean very much to me. So if that's what we're talking about, don't worry so much about getting a slip of paper from the government that says you're man and wife now. But I definitely think that that you should become married, that sexual relationships and ultimately the best forms of relationships are those built on true trust. And yeah, there's definitely a problem with family court, the legal system. Like, women have been given way too much power. Dark Cell and I do not disagree on this. They've been given way too much power, and that needs to be stopped.
2 minutes
But
is
get
up.
married.
Feel free. All right. Cross-examination. You two, anything you want to go back at each other, Dark Cell? Here we go.
I think it does matter what century we're talking about. And I do believe that depending on how the laws are going, and you could say the law has always been the way it is, but that's because back in the day it made sense why, for example, alimony and all that was a thing. Not so much anymore. And I don't think men, when they look at what's going on, they're looking at it as, I'm going to get half my shit taken away from me, not just my kids, but everything I possess, obviously financially as well. And once again, this is a state thing. It's not a religion thing. But if it was under religion, it would actually be much better. And I would only be okay with it if government was completely taken out of it. And if it was just a human-based thing, it was a under God type of situation, but it's not anymore. And even those that go under the, like I said, like under an actual like church and actually care about, do a private like wedding type of thing, at some point it's like something's going to go down the aisle where it's usually the woman. We all know this. It's not men that are divorcing these women. The women are divorcing the men. And you could blame that. And once again, it's secularism that destroyed marriage. And it's the fact that people are still marrying despite that secularism has more power over your marriage than religion does. And unfortunately, community had a lot to do with taking care of people who wanted to divorce, who had adultery going on and this and that. Like, community punched you in the face, physically actually punched you in the face. Your own family would come after you if you did something to your wife, vice versa with the women. The women will go after the woman. We don't have that anymore because there's no shame culture. And that's why I'm wondering what you mean by it doesn't matter what decade or I should say century or what time period or what, because to me, it all depends on that. It all depends because it's just that it was a different perspective back then. And we had certain types of boundaries that we don't abide by anymore. So.
Yeah. And I get what you're saying, Dark Cell. I think that our main disagreement is essentially, I totally agree that the man's role in marriage these days, like the entire system is built against him. And I don't deny that. And I do think you have to play it smart. It's not this like, it's not what I'm positing is not as simple as we need to just, cross our fingers, do what everyone else has done throughout all history and hope for the best. What we like to get down to solving this problem, because we both acknowledge what the problem is, but we have to understand that like women in of themselves, we both agree that ultimately at the end of the day, women don't really have agency in the same way men do. They are, a water takes the shape of its container. And knowing that, really, this is like if you turn to characters like Myron Gaines, Andrew Tate, these like woman pilled guys, you see that actually, despite the fact that every women are given every advantage in the modern day, the core of their nature, that's never going away, and it's still there, which is you give them a firm backhand and you boss them around a little bit and they're going to do what they're told. And I agree that the system is basically put in place, and even female relationships, your wife and daughters or whatever, they should not have female friends. But essentially, it's all put in place to advantage the women should that happen. So really, what's the prescription for young men? Because being overpowering to your wife verbally, physically, don't hit your wives unless it's absolutely necessary, like if they're attacking you or something. But like overpowering your wife to a certain extent, overpowering them just verbally to a certain extent is absolutely necessary in a relationship and in order for you to be the head. But the thing is, you have to find a woman that recognizes that. And I know that's next to impossible these days, but um, Atlas actually brought up something really good. Was he says, young men, young Christian men, don't find your wife at church. Find your wife at a bar. Well, I don't know if he said that specifically, but essentially it was like, if you're a young Christian man, converting your wife to Christianity is actually going to be way more beneficial than finding an already Christian woman, because it's hoflation. The Christian women also see what all the whores other women have become, and what do? They think of themselves as gold because they know how scarce they are, and it's just this compounding effect where there's really no good women all around. So you need to find a good lady that you're compatible with, even if that doesn't mean necessarily in every sense, and then lead. Leading does not mean giving her the backhand, but leading is being a leader. So there you go.
Well, I don't know if maybe I'm picking up on this wrong, but it sounds like you're saying like I can fix her type of mentality.
Yes.
Okay. Look, I'm not going to pretend. I'm not going to be like these guys who think, because it's a lot of the red pill, actually, those type of guys, because you brought up like Myron and a lot of these I shouldn't say dating shows, but these debate shows between women and men type of thing. I guess because it depends what men we're talking about too. Because, for example, I'm not somebody who would want more than one woman around me. I'm actually a one woman person. I've always been that in my head, because the way I looked at it is anything past one woman is already enough. Like it's already stressful enough. I can only deal with one anyways. Just like maybe it's that introversion of where you can deal with one person you're talking to versus a whole panel of people around you. It's a bit claustrophobic in a way, right? It's I don't really have the brain capacity to deal with that. Whereas a one woman thing, that's kind of, and it's funny because I'm not against marriage. Once again, it's more so just the modern version of it just doesn't really make sense to me, just because too much has been screwed up. I don't think relationships will ever be good again. And that doesn't have to just be marriage. That could just be in general. I don't think men and women can ever see eye to eye ever again, at least not anytime soon, ever again. So
I know you're popping up on screen, Atlas, but I just want to reply to that real quick. That is, I guess, where the main crux of our disagreement is it hopeless? Is the situation hopeless? Will men and women ever see eye to eye again? And I would argue they never did. And yeah, like everything's all topsy turvy now, where, back in the day, if a woman really got out of hand, it did take a firm backhand. And guess what? It knocks them out of their funk. That's the way it is. And I get that, like, nowadays, you do that. She storms off, pouts, but when you lived on a homestead, what does she do? She just runs outside for a little bit, calms down, comes back in. These days she's got this little nifty diffty box that's going to call the federal government down on your ass. And I get that. We have to play with the cards we've been given, but I do think there is hope. And I think that we can talk about the solutions. I would argue, like the solutions necessarily aren't even reforming family court, for example, but taking away women's right to vote. They should not be working. Getting back to that, I think, is a possible solution. But we can talk more about that in detail later.
This seems like a great place to stop. And one thing I'd like to highlight here actually is also from Zeb Boykin, who super chatted in. Like the stream chat, super chats are live. Support the New America Vision. Definitely, super chats are live. And somebody corrected me in the chat. Looks like memberships aren't live as of yet, so I apologize for that. But let's reset the conversation, bring these guys back in here. One thing that you guys had mentioned in there that I think is a great take was, can you fix her? And I think there's a lot of things that kind of fall under the criteria of what would mean fixed, right? And can you? And I think there is an argument there from the genetics element where a lot of men argue they don't have enough of the charisma or the looks maxing, or they can't talk the right way. And so without that, it's harder for them to pull a woman in dating market, pull a woman to their side and make a woman agree with them. And so let's focus in on there. Do you believe, Dark Cell, that you can fix a woman, like you yourself? And then how do you think other men can fix a woman? And what are the chances of the average guy being able to fix her? And we'll go back to that.
So myself, no, I don't have time for that. Don't even care to talk. I don't have time to fix anyone. I only got myself at this point. But if we're talking about just the average guy, for example, if you already are lucky enough to be good looking, tall, you already got the genetic lottery on your side. You're Captain America. You're not me, Spider-Man, average guy. But if you're Captain America, Steve Rogers, yes, you got some pull. And guess what? That gets your foot through the door, or at least so the door doesn't completely break she slams in and hits your foot. That's what you got with Captain America. Everything else that comes after it, what does Captain America not have that Iron Man does? Billions of dollars. So it's like, that's that extra level, right? So now if Steve Rogers had $1 billion, well, then that's a completely different world we live in, right? That's a different world that he would be living in. And yes, they're fictional characters, but it's the point. I'm a fictional character myself. Look at me. So the fact of the matter is, and in a way, women are fictional characters. So because everything they talk about is fictitious. They just expect shit just to fall out of the damn sky. They really do. And so you have to play by their rules. We don't have the leverage anymore. And even if you have a lot of money, it doesn't matter. They can just show themselves on OF. They can just, they don't even have to use OF. I know a lot of people use that as an argument for OF is why women have more leverage. But really, it's just, they just have to exist. That's the difference between a man and a woman. Women have inherent privilege, inherent likability and all that. Men have to work for that. And so it's like, well, how many men can really do that? I don't know. Like it seems like it's getting smaller and smaller, the gap. So I would say with the internet and the way it is now, I don't know, man. It's got to be like some 10%, maybe 10% of men in the world overall, maybe. And I'm just talking about guys who can get leverage first. Not necessarily can they take that and then keep it. But I think the majority of men are pretty much screwed.
So I'm going to turn the question over to you, Josh, and ask you the same thing. Answer for yourself. Do you think that you can fix a woman? And then also give your take of what is the average guy's chance of fixing a woman? And then we'll reconvene again. Then you guys can go at it.
I'll start with what's the average guy's chance of fixing a woman. So, again, I'll try and make this quick. I know we only got 2 minutes, but essentially it comes down to, um, it is a game. And most men don't want to. Men have bought the fairy tale Disney princess thing too, where it's two people they meet, it's love at first sight, and everything's fine and hunky dory, and nothing a problem. You have to realize you do need to if you are serious about getting married, if you want to become a husband and a father one day, you do need to educate yourself on the game, because women do things instinctually and they test, they poke, and they prod, and the world has essentially allowed women. I mean, that's something they've always have done, but men have lulled themselves into the sleep state where they're not willing to push back. We all view women as this treasure, as this, like, this glorious trophy, and you need to polish it and keep it up every day. You do need to think of a woman as, not in like a spiritual sense you're lesser, but you do need to almost think of your wife as an employee to a certain extent and treat her accordingly. You, at the end of the day, have the say. Don't get with, like, and there's things. Can you fix her? Depends on who we're talking about. This is like, can I cure what's wrong with you? Okay, well, what's wrong with you? If you're dating a girl who makes more money than you, can you fix her? Probably not. It's case by case.
And this is where I'll step in and I'll inject just a little bit, where I do see where Dark Cell's coming from, where there are certain things you would need as a man for leverage, and this is kind of the argument. Is it money? What matters more? Is it personality? What things should you strive for, right? Is going to the gym 7 days a week, is that the method? And I think that seems to be what most men kind of pursue. But I'll let you guys reconvene on what you find to be your differences to be.
Well, when it comes to the gym, because you brought it up, Atlas, plenty of incels I've talked to are gym maxers. You know what I mean? They look like Arnold Schwarzenegger in his good old days. You know what I mean? And guess what? They complain. And I'm thinking, you worked for it. It's like people who do work for it and still nothing happens. And then that's where the whole like looks maxing and the whole gym maxing and self-improvement crap, it's not really worth it, especially at a certain age, a certain age, because we also got to remember what age of men are we talking about? I'm assuming we're talking college age, right? Or like 20s, your 20s, because, who cares about your teens? Because that's just, everybody's kind of on the same footing. But once you're like kind of in that realm in your 20s, like when does it matter and when does it not? Like, is there a certain time frame, as in do you, because I do believe men have their own wall. We do. We have our biological clocks as well. I know the red pill likes to spew this thing where men, what is it? We age like wine and women age like milk. Okay, then why is it that there's like guys who like MILFs, and like MILFs can get more action than a 20-year-old man in his prime. And that's just a fact. And say what it is, it is unfair, but it's like, no, women can last much longer than men in terms of gravitation from women. It's like, because if you were already not liked back in your heyday, what makes you think you're going to be any better when you're 40 and 50, when you start losing your testosterone, when you start losing a lot of your brain cells from just like constant daily life, and whether you work out or not, who cares? How long do you do that for, by the way? Do you do that for yourself, or are you doing that because you're trying to get women to like you?
I guess I can go.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, we're talking. I mean, I agree essentially. So something you said, this is kind of what I was getting at earlier. The point about, like, what do men and women find their fulfillment in? And that is the problem these days, is the romance is romanticized. It's not, you don't think of getting with a woman like a business. You think of it like like, don't, it is true. Don't confide in your wife. Your wife is not your buddy. Your wife is a subordinate. And with that comes certain advantages. You can, like, you should not vent to your wife. Do not do that. And the point is I'm trying to keep it on subject here, but it's like going to the gym, working out, getting your bag up. These are things you should be doing because you want to. The reason that your Arnold Schwarzenegger guys you talk to, that they struggle with women, is because they struggle with women. And it sounds circular to say, but it's like, okay, their mindset is, okay, no girl wants to go out with me, big muscles, then they'll go out with me. And then things don't get any better because, yeah, like big muscles is nice. And of course, women like that. But like, that's not really what they are more, when I say intellectual, I don't necessarily mean intelligent, but like what they are looking for is more spectral, like, it's less tangible. And the thing is like, okay, so what it really is they want a man who is self-sufficient. They want a man who doesn't need them. They need men that are self-sustaining, because that equals security, and that is what women are after. Women seek security. This is a primal thing. They don't even realize they're doing it in most cases. And the ones that do, they're not embarrassed by that. They're totally fine with that. So if you want to, here's the dirty secret. If you want to get with women, don't want to get with women. What make you, and ultimately God, but like if you make God your highest priority, then you will become your second highest priority.
Well-
I unfortunately got to cut in with that. I'm sorry, but there's plenty of guys who are self-sufficient, but they're not bodybuilders. They're not trying anything. They're just living the life, right? They're just doing whatever. They can make money for themselves. But guess what? They're 5'2" and they're balding and they're Indian and they're a janitor. So like my point is, you can you can ignore women for the rest of your life. It doesn't mean that women will gravitate you toward, because you're not like obsessed with, like, you're not trying to, because I've always heard this, the whole like, don't make women think that you're trying to get with them constantly. Just talk to them like human beings, whatever the hell that means, by the way. And it's like, well, there's plenty of guys who are like, they just don't, it could be because a lot of guys are autistic too. Like maybe there's an autistic guy who doesn't even think about the women around him. He's just kind of going with the flow. He's going to class, he's going to work, and that's it. But guess what? The whole ignoring women gets you women, or, having a lot of money and then ignoring, all this type of stuff. There's plenty of guys who do that. And they're the ones that usually come to me or come to somebody else. And they're like, yeah, I mean, I have a good job and I do this and that. I have my own house, and women don't want shit to do with me. And I know you said something earlier about game. I personally don't think it has anything to do with game. I think that's just a red pill trope.
So I'm going to step back in real quick.
Okay.
Just because I want to center it back. So the idea here is like, what is necessary to pull a woman, right? And so I think that Dark Cell would agree with this, that there are men who can convert women, right? It's just a matter of what is that thing, right? Is it money? Is it only money, right? Is it just being a massive billionaire like Tony Stark? Or can the average guy do it with 40K and also be a Chad, right? And I think people know there's examples like that in their own personal lives. And so I guess the question here is that within the grasp of the everyman? Can every man attain exactly what they see and what I would imagine many envy, right? So to circle it back to that, and I think that's more the ground here, which is if Dark Cell believes that men should be giving up, I would imagine he finds it to be much further out of their grasp. And in fact, not even any of those things. Maybe it's random or whatever. I'm not going to straw man Dark Cell. But I would say for you, Josh, you would play, there's a bit of a charisma element to it in talking to women, right? And the idea here of going to the gym is many times you go to the gym, that doesn't improve your social skills with women. And so here's to draw it back to the center here. And I am curious to drive a bit more deep on that nail, which is, maybe turn it back to you, Dark Cell. What is that thing then? Is it nothing, or is there a specific thing that a man can attain to fix women or convert a woman or to get her to love him in a sense that's not just transactional?
No, I mean, once again, is if you're speaking on just like the average man, because I don't want to use I know I was saying Captain America and Tony Stark, but obviously I'm using these like fictionalized characters who are also like 1%ers in their universe, just like ours. I'd say the majority of men are like this. You know what I mean? So we're going to struggle with bills. Women do not look at us. Doesn't matter how hard we try. We always hurt the ones we love. It's like, yes, that's a quote from Spider-Man, and I'm going to use that. But it's like, at some point you gotta understand that with no power comes no responsibility. And I have no power. I don't have power, and the average man does not have power. So if you're just talking about what can a man attain, it doesn't matter, because it's a fictionalized concept. You have to already be a good looking dude. You already have to have the foot out the door. The guys who aren't good looking, and I always hear this a lot, like the Danny DeVitos or something like that. Yeah, you mean celebrity? You mean celebrities? You mean people who can buy it? You mean people who could just, like the Harvey Weinsteins of the world? Those guys, you could technically call them Chads on their own admission, and not in a good way, because they did it in the most, I'd say disgusting way possible. But when you look at those guys, they still got women. Doesn't matter how they did it, right? I'm just talking from like a objective standing of, like, we're talking about gaining women. But it also, I guess it depends what you're trying to do. Once again, are you trying to find a wife? Are you trying to find the one woman? Are you trying to find her? Or are you just trying to do the fresh and fit thing, where you just screw as many women as you possibly can with no responsibility or accountability for your own actions? Because I think that's really the question.
What was the question again, Atlas? Can you restate it for me, please?
Yeah, so the question here is like, a lot of guys typically go through these many different routes of trying to achieve whatever it is, whatever that leverage could be. And so most men choose going to the gym, because they are, in their eyes, the leverage that they're missing to be able to be successful in the dating market and with women is it's their looks. They don't look strong. They're not ripped. And so most men choose to pursue that. Then there's men that choose to pursue money. They go directly for money, because they see that for women, the leverage they would need in the dating market to be successful is money. And so the question here is are either of those the correct option? Are we all missing the picture? And is all of that within the average man's grasp? Can every man attain this? And is there a level of, are you not even trying, right? To the incels who kind of keep giving up. That's kind of where the direction is going. And so I'm curious, in your opinion, what do you think is that thing to get leverage? Is there a thing to push for leverage? And can every guy attain a woman if they try hard enough?
The thing, so what we're saying is, like, what do you need in order to get leverage over a woman? Because that is what is absolutely necessary. It's tough to say one thing, because it's case by case, but it's like you brought up the example of like Captain America and Iron Man and Spider-Man or whatever. Like, think about Tony Stark in the movie. Like, he was not a billionaire that, like, if he were Tony Stark, billionaire, and he were going up to girls and was like, hi, wow, you're real pretty. Like, he was a Chad, whether he had $1 billion or not. And that comes from security in oneself. The greatest leverage you can have over a woman is not fearing losing her. And what do you need to obtain that? It's easier said than done. I get it. But in order to not fear losing a woman, you need to have access to many women. A woman should feel like you could get another woman within the week if you really, really wanted to. Your woman should be afraid that you're going to cheat on her. And that doesn't mean you like give her reasons to think you're doing it, but she should think that if I left him, he would have no problem finding another girl. And that takes confidence, not even charisma, confidence. You need to be self-sustaining without a bitch. You need that, and that In order to get that, I can't answer that for you. I would advise, I mean, you should go to the gym to be healthy. I'm not exactly the best example of that, but like you should go to the gym to be healthy, but the gym is the cop out. The gym is the easiest thing to do. Big muscles are the easiest thing to get if you're willing to put in the work. If you're trying to put in the work to get good at the game, and by game, I don't mean like machismo. I mean like understanding the nature of women, which it is mind games. And a lot of guys, you know, they're basically like autistic these days and they don't get it. And that takes practice. So that's the thing. You want to get good with women? View every woman you see from now on as your second to last one. That's my advice.
I think it's a perfect place to stop and read some super chats here. So let me swing this back over to myself. Apologize because we had so many come in so quickly and I actually hit the refresh button. I missed a couple of them, but I have them over here. We went through the Zeb one. I'll read the second one. This is from AI World Champion. He says, like the stream or get a lifetime sub to a fourth wave feminist use undergarments club. All right. Second one we have here is just from Chandler605, $5 donation. Thank you very much. We appreciate that. And same to you, AI World Champion. The next one we have is from Da Pasty Boy. He says, hope we get religious debates from you guys soon. They are coming. Trust me, we have a lot of things going on. We are getting to that. So be excited and subscribe. In addition to that, we have another one from Chandler605. He says, my wife left me for a Jew. That tracks. The next one we have is from Lord of the Reeve. He says, we can't fix anyone. Actually, I have this one. I can put this on screen. It says, we can't fix anyone. All we can do is be good examples, bring them to God, and pray God does the rest. And then this last one here that we have here is from Shep. And it says, I am blessed to say that my husband helped me become the woman I am today. God is good. Thank you guys very much for your super chats. We do appreciate it. Let me bring the guys back in here. And why don't we kind of, we'll circle around to a newer topic. Let's kind of recenter everything here. Who is to blame? And this seems to be the kind of the back and forth bit, right? Who is to blame? Now, if you're listening to Tommy Lauren, she will tell you that men are lazy, fat slobs, and they need to try harder because women are doing their part and men aren't showing up. And if you listen to anyone from the red pill, it's a complete opposite. It is, right? Myron Gaines would tell women they need to shut up and listen and make me a sandwich, right? They need to not be doing what they're currently doing. And so I have always kind of said, I do believe there is a 60-40, 70-30 nature to this, where I do think that largely women are to blame. That would be my position, but I'm curious to hear where you guys are at. Is this a 50-50 problem? Is it a 100-0 problem? Where is the blame? Who is to blame? And does it matter even who is to blame? And I'll go ahead and I'll turn it to you, Josh, actually. I'll give you the first word here.
Yes. So I would say I blame it on men. Percentage wise, 90% men, 10% women. And the reason I put it that high is because that is what I believe about the nature of men and women. Is this what we're seeing women do these days is completely in line with their nature. You need to I know, like, in the red pill communities, the America First communities, we have certain opinions about other certain groups. I won't name any names for the sake of this debate, but you need to start thinking of women as one of those groups, if you kind of catch my drift, where they can't really help it. So it's men's fault for taking their eye off the ball, for basically buying the propaganda, buying that women are, oh, you know what? We'd be on Mars right now if women got the right to vote in the 1800s. It's not the case. Quit worshiping women. Listen, we have eyes, guys. We have eyes. Think of every woman you meet as like the women you never meet across the whole planet. They're not special. They're not precious. They're just people.
All right. And then I'm going to turn over to you, Dark Cell. 2 minutes.
Yeah, so historically, it's if you really want to go back in time, it's a political thing. Why did women get rights? It's because they wanted to destroy America. That's actually the reason. And because women's rights, that's why we had the LGBT. That's why we had the civil rights and all this other stuff. All these little subcultures and subcategories that we got over time, the countercultures. I mean, if you look at like Elvis and like just music, for example, if you look at from like Elvis to Madonna to Metallica to like gangster rap in the 90s, this is all because of actually feminism. This is the counterculture. And you know what's funny is, as much as I like heavy metal and gangster rap, for example, you really got to look at where it comes from. It has nothing to do with pro male, this or that, or whatever it is that people like to proclaim it as. It's actually part of the hippie movement. It's all hippie movement stuff. And hippies, it's all that libtard stuff. So do you really want to go back in time? It's communism's fault, but communism came from men. And they used people like Gloria Steinem, who was a CIA, FBI, type of person who was she created feminism in terms of pushing the narrative that women were oppressed and this and that. But if you look at women's suffrage back in the day, it was actually women who were like, no, I do not want to vote. I do not want rights because I do like cooking and cleaning and this, because it's much easier. It's like, why the hell do you want this burden of like going out and working and this and that? And honestly, I go too deep into it, but obviously we know why we got the whole why people can't pay their bills nowadays, why we can't have a one house income. It's because you gave women rights and they made up half the workforce, so you split down the middle. We all know how that goes. So what happened? It's a political thing. It has nothing to do with male versus female, but they made it male versus female. So whose fault is it? It's the elite's fault. Is that man versus woman? No, I mean, I'm just going from a non-bias. Okay, I'm just going from non-bias. Now, if we look at the last 100 years, and you're just going to look at that, okay? Look at Hollywood, all that stuff. MK Ultra, it's, once again, communism. It is the little hats, small hats, if you know what I'm talking about. It is a lot of people involved. And it's a global, it's part of globalism. So, and I know it sounds like I'm going all over the place, but it all has to do with each other. It all comes back together of the same people. So it's not a man versus woman thing, but yes, it's men technically who are like, no, we're going to do this. I don't know why we're going to do this, but they told us this is good. And that multiculturalism and coming together and everyone's equal and yada, yada, equity and this and that. It's a good old grand time. And we fell for it. So this has been an experiment for the last 100 years. I would actually say it's from like LBJ around 65, even with the immigrants just coming in. It's all this, these little things that happened through history that sort of got to this point. And of course, with technology and it becoming the way it's become, it's all on purpose. It's all intentional. This isn't a mistake. This isn't like, oh my God, Elon Musk. Oh my God, Mark Zuckerberg, all that. It's all planned. It's all pre-planned. So at the end of the day, it's not really anybody's fault, but it's men's fault for not calling it out back early enough.
Let me say something real quick, Atlas, before
you
definitely
do. I was just going to say, you're going to go ahead. If you see your guys' either of your cameras slide on screen, that is kind of your signal. You are allowed to rebut whatever's being said. But Josh, go ahead.
Yeah, I was just going to say the 90-10 thing specifically. I don't know, like in hindsight, I don't think I actually made the point, which was essentially it's men's fault because we like the third world, which we do not want to live in. They are awake on the women question. And why is that? The women question, it's not an intellectual question. It is baseline. It is obvious. It's in our face. It's natural. And the problem is in our intellectual and not ours. I mean, I agree with you. It's the little hats, Dark Cell. But it comes down to we let the dog off the leash. We let the pit bull off the leash and say, well, he don't bite me. He must not want to bite anyone else. That's what happened. That's why I place the blame at 90% men. And it's going to take men. It is not going to take women henpecking other women to get them to realize where the mistake was made. It is going to take men to reassert themselves. That is what is going to have to happen. That's why I place the blame at men's feet.
And just to add, I meant to say this. The problem is the majority of men are simps, and you're saying the 90%.
Yes.
Yeah, no, the majority of men are simps. So it's most likely, and this is where it kind of goes to me. Actually, it's the fact that the majority of men are just too stupid and too gullible to do anything about it. So that's why I believe we're kind of screwed. And where we go from here, that's kind of up to. It's kind of up to the stakes, of the game. It's not up to me or you. It's up to whoever decides we have any sort of chance to begin with. So,
well, this wasn't a topic actually on the list here, but let's explore this a bit further. What then is the solution, right? If there is like all these different groups to blame, and we can see there's like these kind of unmovable pieces, and I do agree with both of you here that the simp element is a huge element here, which is they do stand as a barrier basically to anybody on either side of them trying to get them out of the way to make changes. And so obviously repealing the 19th has been floated around for quite a bit. I don't know if we'll ever be able to have the ability to do something like that. But I'm curious then, in your guys' opinions, what is the solution then, right? Or is there a solution? And how do you kind of move these elements to get away from the shit flying of it's man or it's woman? And what is the first kind of actionable step we can take to get things to return to a better place? And I'll let Dark Cell start with this one.
Well, actually, I look at a lot of this as a secular problem. So I would actually say we need to bring back religion first and foremost, make it the powerhouse as it once did. I think we need to bring back blasphemous laws. I think we need to get more harsh in everything we do. I really do. I think we need to be harsh. I think people who don't obey really, in my opinion, commonplace, common sense laws need to be put on trial publicly. And you're like, why are we going here, Dark Cell? Why are we getting to this part of public, whether it's humiliation or execution, whatever you want to call it? Because people did F around back then. If you were put in trial, you were put, because nowadays it's online. Everything's online where you can get humiliated and doxxed and all that. That's not even the same level as I stole an apple and now you're going to get your hands cut off type of thing. And, say what you will about eye for an eye or this or that, but I do believe when we held people in general, because we held women to the same standard actually as men back then, if a woman did something, she could get hung. A man could get hung. Things happened to people back then. It doesn't happen anymore. It's a lack of consequences. So if you want to know where it starts first, consequences. There must be consequences for people's actions. It doesn't matter who or why, or no, it depends on why, of course, but who, right? Doesn't matter what if you're like a lefty or a righty or whatever it is. I don't care about that. It has to do with you as a person. Are you a piece of shit? Do you not do anything for society? Are you doing things that are wrong? Are you hurting people? Yeah, people need to be put on trial. And I'm not talking about going to court either.
All right. And then Josh, your response to that.
Yeah. So what do we do about it? It's a complex question. And I actually, I wasn't really sure like where Dark Cell stood on the religion, but I completely agree. I think this sort of thing, it's going to basically take place at the judicial, like the government level, the political level. Like I said earlier on in the debate, women they're like water. They take the shape of their container. So what do? If you want them to be a certain way, you change the container they're in. And right now the container they're in rewards OnlyFans creators. It rewards being a whore. Men have been tricked into not caring if women are whores. Oh, you want to sleep with a virgin? Get ready for the worst sex of your life. Ha ha. Like men need to acknowledge it. Like that's exactly my point here. Is I'm not talking to an audience of women. I'm talking to an audience of guys. Where does it start? You can only do one of two things. You can be the man in your house. And we can talk about the specifics, what it means to be a good husband, a good leader in the home. And basically, by being the proper example of Christ to your wife will then become a good example to the women around her, ideally. And again, you gotta vet these hoes, man. It's a dangerous world out there. Believe me, I get it. But at the end of the day, it is going to take men, true America first, Christ first men, seizing power and changing the laws. No more voting, gals. We tried it. You're not very good at it. We got to, get them out of the workforce. You can be a typist, even though AI will probably replace you. I don't know. That's, get rid of, we don't need all the amenities. Okay. Get rid of the dishwasher. She's hand washing dishes. Bring back the clothesline. We're bringing all that back. No washers, no dryers. She's gonna be in that little room where the washer and dryer are. She's gonna be in there with that like scrub board and out back with the clothes with a clothesline. That's what my household is gonna look like.
So I guess let's be even more specific, because I think both of you agree that the church should be a lot more involved. There should be a lot more consequences, and I agree. This is kind of the bigger element, which is Men live in reality, whereas women get to live in delusion, right? That seems to be the classic trope.
Mhm.
So let's be more specific then, because that is another argument, right? Inside of the Christian sphere, which is you're saying, men should embody and be Christ. But that has a different definition depending on who's hearing it. Now, some people hear it and they think of this kind of what do they call it? Servant leadership, right? Which is basically like, yeah, you're the leader in your home as a husband, but that means you do whatever your wife asks you to. And it's like, wait a minute, is that really like being a leader in the home? And so let's be specific then. How do we then, go at the men who are upholding a false view of what marriage is, leading this kind of co-equal partnership that is and quite frankly is in contradiction to what the Bible says, which is husband, wife, children. So I'm kind of curious. I'll turn it to you. I'll give you the first word on that, Josh.
Yeah, husband, wife, children. I think I'll answer your question, but to get into the specifics, what must be done specifically? I unironically support arranged marriages. And I get like, so that is actually something, it's going to be a while before we get that in the, that to become the law of the land, but genuinely like ruling your house with an iron fist. You can't push away your kids and whatnot, but you got to kind of understand psychology, and you don't want to have your child be the preacher's kid. We all know the type. But arranged marriages would definitely work, and I say pray about it. It's a dark time. It's a dark situation. And you honestly need to be mature and seek counsel on things from elders in your church, your local community, because we can all agree the happy wife, happy life thing tried doesn't work. You need to be happy. You need to be satisfied. And to be satisfied is not necessarily to go on vacations. I know I'm kind of jumping all over the place. I'm getting long-winded here, but I think the answer is the man being the head of the household. That comes with picking the proper woman. If she needs fixing, fix her, but don't be afraid of her. The only person in your home that you should fear is Christ. And the only people in your home that your wife should fear is Christ and then you. And I say that meaning your wife should fear you. She should fear losing you. You got to figure out how to make that happen.
I'm going to turn it over to you, Dark Cell. Same kind of question, right? What is the pushback here?
Actually, could you repeat the question?
Yeah, so the question would be, in a more specific sense, in the line of getting the churches back to the positions where they were historically, being the kind of the protectorates of marriages, the ones who would hand out consequences. You would go to the church, right, and they would decide, is a divorce necessary here? And typically they would try to counsel you back and try to be that kind of resource for you. But there is a battle happening right now, which is there are a lot of right-wing men in the Christian space that are saying, hey, we want the church to honor marriage, we want the church to bring it back, but we want it to be actually what it's supposed to be, not this kind of co-equal simp, leadership where the woman runs the household and the man kind of just runs and follows along at her beck and call. What is the answer and solution to getting those guys' voices less influenceable, right? How do we get those guys to be seen as in the wrong and our view in the right?
Wait, so I'm kind of confused because do you want like more of an orthodox sort of fundamentalist look at how it used to be? Like you want that to return, or do you want more of that sort of I would consider Protestant secular sort of view, because they're the ones that want to push the whole equality crap between the husband and wife thing. Whereas if you go even further back to like a paleoconservative would want it so that the woman doesn't, she's not seen, she's not heard. You stay in the house, do what you're told type of thing. And I'm the one who goes and gets I get to hunt down the a deer and whatever, bring back the food, whatever the hell it is, protect the household type of thing. So you're talking about like neo version of conservatives who want the woman to have just as much of a voice as the man. Is that what you're saying? Get rid of them. Is that what you're?
Yes. So let me try to even be more specific, because you're right about like the Protestant side of it, which seems to be more of that kind of worldview has come from Protestantism. This kind of evangelical, women can be preachers, women can be ordained,
Yeah.
right? This kind of constant infiltration of women in that space. And I would agree with you. It's largely, I've seen a lot of that come from the Protestantism, and I wouldn't argue with you there. I guess the question more specifically then is, that is the barrier, right? The barrier when, guys like me or Josh or anyone that's in this Christian nationalist view go, hey, what you guys are proposing as, the correct view of marriage is entirely wrong. And actually, we find it to be subversive to the actual view. So my question is, with them being a barrier to getting us to return to normal, what is your idea of getting them out of the system, right? How do we get people to look at them as being the ones in the wrong?
Well, that's actually very easy. Even if you can't physically get them out of there, you can't, outvote them or whatever. Remember, these people are secular. They don't actually believe in having that many kids. As long as one side has more kids than the other, then you can just outbreed them. So I don't know really the solution besides that, because it would take a long, long time. We're talking about like what we're talking about right now. Even if we were able to get rid of everything that's the problem in this world right now, this is centuries worth of like work, and it's not going to be you and I mean, we're the voices now. People here, no, I shouldn't say me, but people in general here, just in the spaces, they're the voices for now, but then you got to hope that there's a continuation of it. So as long as there's going to be a voice on maybe the more old school way of looking at things, the conservatives, I should say the real conservatives, not the neocons, but the actual conservatives, as long as that keeps going, I don't see a problem, honestly. Just keep breeding and just outbreed the enemy. That's how I look at it.
And your response, Josh?
Yeah, specifically on the subject of just outbreed them, I think it's going to take a little bit more than that, because
Are you talking
they'll
about like
just
converting them?
converting, and also that, like, this is the thing you have to understand about women and gays, and basically, not that all women are deviant, but they're basically gays, which are deviant. And it's essentially, it comes down to, like, these people are spiteful. Like the enemy is spiteful, and they won't simply go, huh, they're outbreeding us. Well, I guess we lost this one, guys. Then they'll just try and kill your kids.
Yeah.
Then that's what's going to happen. So it takes, like, there's, I forget the reference, but there's a verse in scripture where Jesus says, we need to be as, forget the word, but it's like, as kind as sheep, but as cunning as snakes, where we do need to be tactful. We do need to be aware, and we do need to beat these people back. And what it takes is beating them back, and being honest about it. We can say, look, JD Vance, there's no such thing as a normal gay guy. It's oxymoronic. That, love is not, love is love. No homosexual man has ever loved another man the way that a wife loves his husband.
It's
They
just
might
lust.
have affection for each other.
Yeah.
They might be pals, but they,
Lust.
they might, yeah, exactly. And it's like, if there's two gay guys that they've lived together their whole lives, and the other one dies and the other one's sad, I'm not saying that they're not upset, but they do not love each other. Love is simply more than the hunky-dory feelings you get when you're around someone you like. It's more than that. And so the tactic we need to have is not simply, okay, I need to have 15 white, straight Christian babies. It needs to be undoing and correcting what has been done to women and to us by proxy. And so when you're around women, if you're going to argue with women, just don't back down. This whole, like, pick your battles thing, when it comes to women, don't pick your battles. Fight and win every single one of them, because if you lose one, she's won everyone, single other one after that.
I still think it comes down to indoctrination too, because like
Yes.
if there's enough Christian, and I say Christians, but really in general, let's just say people who aren't retarded, aren't going on to the left and all that. Let's just say people, and because I get it. It's like not everybody who's going to listen to stuff is Christian. They're not going to be Orthodox. They're not going to be this or that or that. But if you even came down to fine line the same views as us, for example, and you and I have a difference of religious or whatever belief systems, and that's fine. But I feel like we still agree that if there was more of us, but they all I wouldn't say breeding in secret, but you gotta teach from the home. You gotta do stuff from the home. You can't do this stuff in their system, because the overall problem is we're working with their system. We can't do that anymore. You have to reject. You have to reject the mainstream system, and we've already won with the news outlets. They're going away. Legacy media is going away. Who's the prominent voices on the internet? It's not left wingers. It's not secularism. Maybe in the early 2010s of YouTube, they were the atheists and all those people were around. Like, they're all like dead. They're all like screwed. They're all stupid. They're homos. They don't know what the hell's going on anymore. They're out of touch. So my point though is, if you can get enough people on your side, even if they're not on the same wavelength 100%, and they still have the same values and all that, and they decide I'm not going to put my kid in this college. I'm going to do this with my daughters and my sons. This is how I'm going to teach them. You got to create housewives and Knight Templars. That's what you have to do. That's really the future. You have to do that.
I'm going to go ahead and step in here. I'm going to go ahead and read some super chats here. Thank you very much again. We have one other one from GeoGasser. And I found a better way to actually clean it up, so I'm not going to miss any more. But this is from GeoGasser. Let me click on it here. He says, a moral woman will always follow a moral man. Found my wife as a not religious leftist. 5 years passed, and she is now conservative Christian. Now, Josh mentioned that earlier, and that is kind of a bit of my worldview, if I'll inject myself here, is that, and I think a lot of men have higher experiences and better experiences doing this. Now, you can find me on Offensively Accurate. I'll explain it in a bit more detail, but props to you, GeoGasser, for doing so, because I would imagine your guys' marriage is standing pretty tall. But to go back to the debate and bring you guys back in, let's reset this to a new topic here. Let's go to pornography. Pornography has been something that is highly, 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 highly contested, and for a lot of different reasons. Now, you have women who are pushing for it because they believe sex work should be recognized as regular work, and they want to push for it with OnlyFans and things like that. And that kind of leans in a bit to where Dark Soul's brothel argument is, right? Maybe just bring back the brothels for this help relieve some of the sexual tension. But at the bigger sense, what used to be a trope is actually going back the other way. There used to be this trope, and it still is, and I think men still experience it, which is inside of marriages, what they end up finding is their wife will basically hold sexual access as a kind of as a reward or as leverage over the entire marriage. They would use it as a tool. It's an asset to them. It's like, oh, you want to have sex tonight? You better take out the trash. Oh, you want to have sex tonight? You better put the kids to bed. But also now we have the secondary one coming up, and it's being a bit more prominent, and that is erectile dysfunction. There are a lot of marriages reporting there's erectile dysfunction in them because men are being so boggled down by pornography, they're having difficult times having relationships with their women. And so pornography, and I'll inject myself once again, I think should be banned across the board. So I'll turn the question over to the panel. What is your guys' idea? Should we ban pornography? What should we do with it? Right? There's also an element of, if you ban pornography, a lot of incels may be forced to have to clean themselves up and choose sexual access. But there's also an argument for incels where if you remove pornography, you basically eliminate any ability for them to see any kind of sexual nature at all. That one I give less credence to, but I'll turn it over. I believe Dark Cell, right? No, Josh. Josh, you have the first word on this one.
Sweetheart, maybe it's time for the ladies to start looks maxing if you can't get your husband hard. But no, I'm teasing. But in terms of the getting, I don't think any of us are going to yeah. Why don't you, I don't know, get some scrubs or something. But essentially, yeah, pornography's got to go just in general, because pornography is almost, and I hate to see it coming from women when women complain about pornography, but the reason women complain about pornography is because that's what they're competing with. I've got to compete with an oil sheik with some girl I know because she's online and anyone has access to her. But she's got to compete with, insert famous movie actress here or look alike. So I think pornography is, we know it has zero positive effect. The negative effect, like I would almost rather bring back prostitution than pornography, because it, like, at least I don't advocate for either of those things, but at least, like, at least the accessibility is more scarce and more expensive. Did the guys who cheated on their wives in the 1800s that went to brothels, did they go to the brothel and then go home and couldn't get hard? Probably not. Pornography destroys the minds of men. It destroys the minds of women, but let's be honest, it's men who really suffer from this. And it is an addiction. It is like being a heroin addict, and to get men off of it, like, most men should have the wherewithal to not do it, but, like, we're supposed to run from sin, but at the end of the day, it's just got to go. It's got to go.
Oh, did I lose Dark Cell?
No.
Uh-oh.
No, I'm just taking a breath. I'm taking a breath from the mask. Don't worry, I'll get the camera
He's
back on.
extra Dark Cell now.
Word, okay.
Oh, yeah.
True Dark Cell. He's achieved his final form.
I'm Super Saiyan Spidey. It's so dark right now that I'm past the Venom symbiote. My whole world is dark now.
Word. No, okay. But I was gonna get ready to turn it over to you, and get your thoughts. 2 minutes of what we should do with pornography. Ban it? Should we accept it? Should we bring back prostitution? What do you think, Dark Cell?
Right. So bear with the black screen. No, I think overall, I actually agree. I think pornography is a problem. And what's funny is I did used to watch it a lot when I was like 16 to 18, or, around those ages, around when I was in high school, by the time I was sexually frustrated afterwards, because, you start realizing, you're not going to get any. It's a lot harder out in the real world than it is, when you're in school, type of thing. You know what I mean? So it's like that. I get why people get into it. I get it. It is like a stress reliever. It is something like a lot of guys are going to get into because, well, women don't like me. And maybe it's just me, and I don't have ED. I know someone brought up ED, but I found that I personally don't need it. I don't really care for any of that stuff. Never went too far with that stuff either. It's a very simple stuff that I had gone into. But all in all, I think it's funny you brought, Josh, you brought up prostitution, as you'd rather have that than somebody just looking at random chicks online, videos, photos, whatever it could be, right? OnlyFans stuff, right? Which, by the way, OnlyFans is prostitution. Let's not pretend it's not. But the thing with it, especially the question of today, and it's why actually it was before we ever started this, I brought up that if we're going to be living with the confines of reality, as in what do we have right now? What is accepted in society as of right now? And you know what's accepted? It's that whole sexual liberation. And my argument is, why is sexual liberation only benefit the gays and the women? It's on purpose. I can tell you that it's intentional. But when it comes down to it, if you want to fix any sort of problem, which I don't know if this would fix the problem, but I think it would help a lot of men, especially just to get it out of the way. The sex part of it would be the brothel. I think that's more beneficial than being looking at corn, because corn's not real. Whereas if you're with a real woman, even if it's once, at least you get that out of the way. You can go back to whatever, especially because it's not like you're cheating on anybody, because who are you going to cheat on? It has nothing to do with that either. So really it's just you and some random chick. She's doing your service and that's it. My problem is, why don't we have that now? Why do we not have that right now?
I do think that is a good question, actually. Now, funny enough, there are women in this space that do push for this. Actually, they do push for sex work to be recognized. They do want sex work to be legalized. So it's kind of odd, because there's like a split on the feminist wing, where some feminists are like completely against it because they think it's dangerous to women. And then there's some feminists who are like, no, this is the full this is the full recognition of feminism at large, right? It's like being able to use your use your sex for personal gain. I guess the bigger question then is here too, if that is the case, right? Even the feminists are arguing about it, and we can recognize there's some clear and obvious benefits from it. What do you think's easier, repealing the 19th or a push for a brothel? And understand like that question is a statement of like where we are currently. And I think the overwhelming factor here is we can't wait much longer to keep men in this position, right? Because men are just they're scratching at the door, they're clawing around, they're pushing on it, so much to the point that you're having the FBI basically classify them as terroristic threats to get ahead of it, because they know there may possibly be some kind of some violence popping off later down the line, and I really hope not. So I guess my question back to the panel then would be, if you had to choose, would you ban pornography in favor of brothels, or would you try to make the push for repealing the 19th? And what do you think is more feasible and worthwhile?
You want to?
You want me to go first? All right. I would say I'd push for repealing the 19th, because I was bringing up the brothel as like a comparison to say like they're both terrible, but like as funny as it seems, it's like it's crazy that we got rid of brothels because that's immoral. Like, hey, maybe it's not in line with our morals as a Christian country to allow sex work, so we're going to make that illegal. But if you want to do the exact same thing, but there's a camera in the room, well, then it's all hunky-dory, fine and well. That's what's crazy to me. And so to me, they're both basically the same thing. But pornography is just the worst version of a brothel, because it's way more accessible, but you're not even getting laid. You're getting like an artifice of the real thing, and that is scrambling the minds of men, where they can just rather than saying, okay, I just got paid, I'm gonna spend $100 on a quick lay, they bust and then they hit the road. Well, as like a guy who has access to pornography can just bust after nut after nut after nut and keep on going, and it literally, we've observed this, it fries these people's minds. So the problem is with women. And so like you say like, oh, these henpecked men, even conservative men that don't think women should have the right to vote, they won't say it because it'll upset their wives. Okay, well, if women lose all the power that they have, that they clearly are not responsible enough en masse to take, then it is what it is. And this is actually, before you jump in, Dark Side, I'll just say this. This is an argument I've had with past girlfriends, I have with my own family. It's like, well, like it's not all women. And I'm like, okay, does it not tell you something that like I need to say this to you, like that I need to explain generalities to you? Like, for example, all of the women in my life, in my family, are conservative. Yeah, I mean, I think Donald Trump is bad now, but benefit of hindsight. But like, they all vote, for the right candidate. They all vote Republican, so to speak. So if the only people allowed to vote were the women in my life, I think the world would be a better place than we have it today. But most women, the majority of women, don't do those things. They're not responsible like that. So what does it tell you that you would rather that even you, who is it's like quote unquote the responsible ones, even you are not willing to sacrifice the rights of women you don't know, who are completely opposed to everything you believe in? You're not going to sacrifice your right to vote so that they can have a say? Like, does that not tell you everything you need to know? Anyway, go on.
Actually, I forgot what the question was.
Yeah, I know we both go kind of long, and I'm like, what was it?
I know we're kind of circulating, I think, on some of these similar topics, but I guess the question is we're in a really kind of black pilled area, and the idea is
sorry, it was the brothel versus the what was it?
Right, like what's more worthwhile to actually push for, right? Is it when we know that like there's this ominous feeling that there's violence around the corner, that there's this growing population and demographic of men that are just sick and tired of it, And you can see the way they kind of talk with some of these manosphere red pill stuff. And if the push to repeal the 19th feels impossible, what then is the best solution to help give reprieve to these men who are in these bad positions? That was kind of like the gist of the question here.
I actually think if you, this is going to sound funny, but it would actually be like this counter way of getting women back in the game. I know it's like, oh, repeal the 19th, but it's like you just don't have enough people, especially men, because there's too many simps that are going to go with that. It would still be a very small percentage of men. Doesn't matter. It doesn't matter if you were able to get all the red pill and the black pill and the incels and this and that guys all together and they all voted for the repealing 19th. It wouldn't be close. It just wouldn't be close. There's just too many idiots out there. There's too many feminized men. So along with the women who would vote against that. Now, why do I think like the brothels actually could work? You would take away a lot of attention from OF. You would take a lot of attention away from pornography online or whatever. Those women would actually have to go and get a real job. They'd actually have to be more woman-like. They'd have to actually be women. Even if it's faking it to make it, I suppose, on their part, they would have to do it. They'd have to concede to us because the majority of us would be like, well, why would I watch it when I can just go up the stairs of the bar, the saloon or whatever? We should go back to that, by the way. Screw the whole pubs and all that. And let's just call it the saloon. You go into the saloon and you're like, I want a beer. I want a shot of whiskey. Go upstairs, be with that woman in a night or something like that. And if that was like a general thing, if men could do that, incels could do that. Not only would you give them more reason to live, they'd probably more likely have more reason to fight for your country, for whatever it is, what the state, whatever. Because it's like, because I really do think the sex thing, a woman, I get it. Women are just pretending to like you in the bed. Yeah, women are the best actresses of the world. I get it. But the fact of the matter is, it would still, for a lot of men, get them up to speed. All of a sudden, they feel like they just grew some balls. Their balls dropped. They actually want to do shit with their lives. Yeah, I really think it's like that one thing. And back in the day, even when there weren't brothels, kings and stuff, whatever, the head of the, they would show their son how to be a man. One of the first things is to get your son laid with some chick in the town. And then from there, what do you know? The guy gets all confident and shit. And that's how you start them. That's how you get them to go anywhere. So if you don't have the sex part of it, then what you're pretty much saying to the man is, yeah, get used to this. You're not going to get shit. And it's the whole, you have to work for it, but the woman, she doesn't have to do shit. And that's why you have so many of these guys who are so negative and so pessimistic about the whole thing. But yeah, no, I think brothel actually would work better than trying to repeal the 19th, as much as I agree with that. I just don't see it as plausible.
Let me go ahead and step in here. Read a couple of these super chats here. I have one from GeoGasser and another one from the Pasty Boy. The Pasty Boy says, sports promotes drinking and gambling, harmful too. And I definitely agree. Sports betting and gambling is another huge element, brought to you by Dave Portnoy largely, and many other people like that. We have this other second one here from GeoGasser as well. He says, on the path, widows and single women in their 40s would initiate young men. I think it's way healthier. So let me go ahead and reset the conversation one more time. I think we're going to get down to maybe two more subjects before we go ahead and get the closing statements here and bring these guys back in. I think there's two ones that I want to explore here, and they're going to be a little bit of a harder segues from where we've been at. Let's start with the first one. The possibility of long-term happiness without a partner. Now, this is something actually inside of the Christian worldview, but it's seemingly it's not promoted, or it's kind of looked at with maybe a bit of a shame. And that would be kind of similar to what you see with like Nick Fuentes and the kind of the pushback he gets all the time for where he is at with his positioning, which is, it's just not in the cards for him right now. He's trying to get himself to warm up to it. But prior to that, there was kind of this belief that men could also do great things without ever having to get married. And that they would be living just as a productive and fulfilling life. And we've kind of moved away from that, right? Where the general kind of sentiment, the mainstream sentiment push is just go get married and go get married blindly. And so I'm kind of curious what your guys' take is on, is that fulfilling? Can a man have a long-term happiness in being alone with no family and no kids? And would they need a mission for that, right? Or is that only in the sense of as long as they're giving their life to Christ and doing things like that. And so I'm kind of curious, and I'll turn it to you, Dark Cell. Take your thoughts on long-term happiness.
I think if you look at the overall men, even men who you can look back in time and say they were very successful, they created this technology, they created this theory that they created, and what we look at, some of them, and I've heard this a lot too. A lot of people will say, well, they were virgins. And I'm like, no, they weren't. The majority of, once again, the brothel thing comes up. Prostitution wasn't looked down upon it back in the day. And I'm pretty sure the majority of men, even the most brilliant minded, they got laid. They just didn't get married. That's the difference. They didn't get married. And, as far as we're concerned with the olden days, we don't really have that much information about a lot of people. You just have to make assumptions. And the majority of history is based on the victor of history. Who gets to write these tales? Who gets to write these fairy tales? And it's very easy to say somebody was able to go through life without love and this and that. I just disagree with that full-heartedly. The majority of men back then actually did get laid. It's just they just didn't procreate. They didn't get to have kids. I mean, it is what it is. And also back then with medicine and all that, it's not like we kept track. We didn't keep records back then, not like we do today. So I don't think you can really compare back then to today. I think men need it. I think also just to add before I let Josh go into this, but also got to remember that the majority of men went to wars and died. So you actually don't know who these men were. You don't know if they actually procreated. You don't know how many, single mothers out there where there were back then. They just kind of gave up their babies too, probably. Like I have no idea, but I'm just kind of speculating that the majority of people are kind of unknown. So you have no idea who. I don't even know. It kind of, this is kind of off topic, but it kind of reminds me of like when Mozart died. You know what they did with his body? They didn't give him a grave or anything like that. They just threw him in a pile of other bodies. So they did, despite his everything, how great he did with his music, and we listen to this day, and it's used in all our media and whatever. This dude was thrown into a pile of unknown bodies, like just like he wasn't cared for at all. So that's my point. Is like we're so fragmented in how we kind of look at history. It's a bit, yeah.
Well, I'll turn over to you, Josh. Your thoughts on men kind of foregoing marriage altogether, right? And can they attain and have a fulfilling life?
I think they can. I think that that's absolutely possible, but it takes you need to educate yourself on Christ, on history, and just the nature of things. And I would say the nature of the game, where it's essentially, a man can find satisfaction. The true joy and satisfaction that we find have can only be found in Christ. But in terms of like tangible, well, like the day to day type thing, is a man can find fulfillment in purpose, and a man's purpose is greater than a family. The truth is that all men's purposes are rooted in things deeper than that. All women's purpose is rooted in family. And you got to find what that is for you. I think a big problem that men face today is the same men who say to themselves, "Well, I'll find satisfaction without a woman." They're living like a man who is with a woman. They stay in the same job forever, some crap ass 9 to 5. They live in the same place. If you're going to live without a woman, then don't live like a woman, or don't live like a married man. Take loans you can't pay back. Move every 6 months. Go out there, be adventurous, and find what it is you need to find. Because once you get a wife, you have deep responsibilities, and that's the thing. As men can find purpose that is compatible with a wife, but in the modern day, I'd advise you go out there and live. I know this sounds kind of gay and almost liberal, but live life to the fullest. That doesn't mean sleep around, do whatever you do as thou wilt, but that means find the purpose. You know, be a man. And what a man is a risk taker. What a man is virtuous. So do those things. You can find satisfaction without a woman. And there's certain types of satisfactions that only a woman can fulfill, but that should not be your goal. I mean, I've had buddies tell me, they're like, man, as soon as like I was like, well, what do you want to do? Like, what are your career ambitions? And he's like, I just want to find a good, well-paying job so that I can find a wife and make her happy. You'll never make her happy because the women don't even want you to worship them. If a woman's saying, oh, I want a man to worship me, I want to be the first thing in a man's life, she does not understand what she wants. All of the like female fantasies, you know, like, not that I've read one, but if you read any of these, like, I don't know what you call them, these like old lady sex books, you know, all these ones that all the moms read, they're who are the men in there? They're pirates and knights that don't give a shit about the woman in the story. The woman in their fantasies is secondary. Like what's that the gray one, 50 Shades of Gray, 50 Shades of Gray. The guy's a billionaire who uses her as basically a glorified fleshlight. That's the female fantasy. So be that guy, and don't be that guy, not specifically what's his name from 50 Shades of Gray. Don't be like a pervert, you know, you got to be Christ-like, but don't pretend like you don't care. Don't care. And then you'll attract women. Or just don't worry about them.
What if I added that on Amazon, you can find like hundreds of books with women who wrote them, the authors.
Yes.
Their fantasies of getting you know what by a Sasquatch, for example. I'm not even kidding.
Yo, dude.
Full on stories.
Business idea. I'm going to go to a lot of Indian YouTube channels and just copy the comments and use AI to write a female fantasy book. And then I'll just start churning out these female fantasy books, and I'll be a billionaire.
Does it include some you know, shooting you know what brown stuff at each other?
Yeah, well, obviously, I'm just going to use the perviness of Indians as the AI. Women aren't fantasizing about Indians. Let's be honest. Not even Indian women.
But they are fantasizing about giant hairy hominids that.
Yeah.
Well, that's why I was going to step in.
The pirate comes up and it's not like, hello, I am Captain Jack Sparrow.
Well, this is where I was going to step in. This is actually another great point here, which is if you were to go, if you would go to the elementary, you get the kind of the mainstream idea. What women want is they want flowers, and they want you to be nice. They want you to open the door for them. You know, they want you to take your jacket off and like wrap it around them. But what do the books show? Not that, right? The books of their sexual fantasies and kinks don't show this. And so there is an element of like men are basically being lied to about what women desire. And it's kind of up to men to have the epiphany later on in life, however it happens to them. Most often it happens to them with their first girlfriend. Their first girlfriend lets it be known like, hey, you weren't this, you weren't this, you weren't this. And then she goes off with Chad. And that's how a lot of guys have that recognition of like, oh, she didn't want me to be nice. It needed to be more than that. And obviously she wants you to be nice, but you need to be more than just nice. And that's like a whole different element here. And so that point aside, we want to go to the final point here. Family court. Family court is this major, major barrier in this whole problem, which if you look, I think it's across the board nationally. What is it? It's like anywhere from like high 80s to low 90s, women win the majority of the time. And this is kind of the big black pill for most men in marriage, you know, i.e. Jeff Younger. There's many other cases you can look up, which is you can do all of the right things. You can file all the right court, you know, the court documents, whatever, and you can still lose in a court of law, and your child can get extradited to another state, and they'll trans them and castrate them, and there's nothing you can do, and no one's coming to help you. That actually happened. So knowing that, why do you guys think there's not a push? Debate this. Why is there not a push to rework or reform family court? And why do you think the Republicans never touch it? And I'll start with you, Dark Cell.
Because the majority of Republicans aren't young guys. as in the people with power. It's all a bunch of boomers. No, this all goes back to why 100 years ago was different than nowadays. 100 years ago, it all made sense. Their laws made sense. The whole alimony and taking care of the woman over the man type of thing in terms of the state and all that made sense. That made sense back then. Not so much now. And the reason it's not pushed is because we don't have any power. That's what it comes down to. The young guys don't have power. If you had the modern Republican, it doesn't have to even be Republican. It could just be like the modern man who has like actually sees the world for what it is and doesn't live in a mansion like a boomer does, right? He's gonna say, nah, this is screwed up. It's all equality. If it's all equality, then nobody should be getting anything from each other. Nobody should go down that road where somebody takes the kids and all that. And actually, the only way marriage could work now is if we just took it away from the state. You can't allow them to have any power over you and your kids. And this also kind of comes back to like the Reagan years with the whole what's it called, where you and common law, right? Common law marriage and all that stuff. You could just hang out with somebody in a house, an apartment, whatever, and nothing really happened. But the problem is and the reason they wanted this common law thing is so that they could have control over you. Because any little thing you do in this life, you're not allowed to have any freedom. They have to have some way of controlling you. And so common law was a way for guys who didn't want to actually get married. They just wanted to be with the chick. They wanted to have kids, but they just didn't want the law to have anything to do with it. So yeah, it all comes back to what I was talking about earlier.
Forgive me. I'm going to turn over to you, Josh. Your thoughts on why family court is like the least touched item in all of politics?
It's because of women. I mean, it's because the people running politics are henpecked, and the Republicans these days, like modern day Republicans, are basically just liberals anyway. So they're not going to the woman question is way more touchy than the JQ and race realism. No one wants to touch it. And it doesn't matter really what era you're in, so to speak. I mean, especially nowadays, that's just, it is untouchable by these pussy politicians. And that's why no one talks. It's like why the Republicans run on a better economy, but they never talk about entitlements. Why? Because they would never win elections if they did. Because the so-called conservative boomers, you touch their 401k, then they revolt, because everyone's looking out for themselves. Everyone's looking out for numero uno, and the women, like you can have women argue all the time, but as soon as you touch a woman's rights thing, it doesn't matter the nuance. It doesn't matter any of that. They just see one of their own getting attacked, and they defend it. What it's going to take is a total reformation of the system. We're going to have to basically get rid of it. I say find your local law office and kill them. No, I'm kidding. Don't do that. That's a joke. That's a joke. Don't do that. But I do. Yeah. I know. Hey, we at NAV, we do a little Fed posting. What can I say? Donate to your local divorce lawyers. Yeah. Donate to your local divorce lawyers. But for real though, if you think your wife is going to leave you, get a quote, or I don't know what they call it, but get like a quote from every divorce lawyer in town so she can't go to them. That's a real thing, by the way. But I would say, okay, family court. The question, okay, so what do we do about family court is we get rid of divorce. There's no such thing. If you get married and then we find out you're not living together, we're killing the whole family, the wife, the husband, the kids. You all gotta go. No,
okay, so I'm going to step in here.
The point is that something has to change.
Agreed.
Something has to change.
Well, and I'm just going to step in here because it does sound like that you guys basically agree on this, right? There's basically what I think a lot of us kind of look at it being an overwhelming problem is a lot of these men in power who could be doing things and affecting change are the same simps that we don't want in power. So it's kind of this hard kind of, between a rock and a hard place. And what I would add too on the pornography element of it as well, this it is digital cuckery, right? This you know, getting off on a digital image in the brothery. The brothel may be better in terms of, you know, naturalness, but it's like, you know, you're picking between some fine hairs there. Looks like we kind of have reached maybe a full circle here of getting our thoughts and ideas out. So I'll probably go ahead and turn over to closing statements. I know Dark Soul, you want to say something. Let me go to the super chats here real quick. I'll give it to you, Dark Soul, because you do actually have the first closing statement. But let me actually do the super chats real quick. We have 3 that came in. Person from Lord of the Ree. Looks like the blue ones aren't showing up for some reason, but Lord of the Ree says, "Thou shalt not commit adultery." The second one we have here is from Ian S. Zignat. He says, "Study the Hutterites of Fort Pitt, Alberta for a model of the life I'm hearing you describe. It exists. God bless." And then it looks like this question might have been directed towards Josh, but this is, what is the point to strive and be a great man if you are the end of your lineage? So I guess I will let Josh answer that actually for just a minute or two, and then I'll turn it back to Dark Cell.
I guess okay, I'm not getting any pussy, and then my son won't exist, so he can't get any pussy. I guess I just give up. That like, do not agree that this is part of being a man. Is that's the point? Is you're always striving for something greater than yourself. Your family. If what you are is a farmer living on a homestead in the 1800s and all you've got is your wife and your kids and your farm and your cows and your sheep, you're still striving for something greater than you. That's what all man must do. And even if you strive to be a great man, and by great man, I don't just mean rich. There's plenty of rich douchebags and rich assholes. But if you strive to be a truly great man, you're not just being great for your own sake. You're being great for the people and things around you. You know, if you're striving to be a great man who's a minister, you're bringing people to Christ. If you're striving to be a great man who owns a local business and is just working all the time, you know, you're providing jobs for people that do have families. And you know, like, what do you not have any brothers? Is it truly the end of your lineage, so to speak? I mean, you should what I'm saying is you need to strive to be a great man, and then the women will come. So I'm not saying give up on women. That's the opposite of what I've been saying this whole time. But you need to have the mindset of I don't need one. And when you have that, then you'll get all of them.
Word. And Dark Cell, we're going to turn it over. There's going to be closing statements. You guys each have 5 minutes each. And since Dark Cell started, he will be the first to go, and then Josh will get the last word. And Dark Cell, feel free to respond to anything that Josh had said here, any other points that you have yet to make as well. The floor is yours for 5 minutes, man.
Yeah, so I don't even think we disagreed all that much, but also I don't think maybe the comment or the questions were necessarily black pill versus white pill. It's just our difference opinion on maybe the aspects of marriage and religion between the sexes and maybe the way the world has currently been the way it is and why men should even participate. And honestly, it you shouldn't even go to marriage. You should just be thinking, why should the man even get up from bed? Why should he clean his room? As Jordan Peterson, the Zionist shill, has told down to men for so long. You know, it's like, why should men do anything like that? Why shouldn't they just say, screw it, I'm just going to play Call of Duty all day? You know, why shouldn't they just do that? And as far as I'm concerned, there isn't really an argument against that. More so that if you already got the leap ahead, because this is what it sounds like to me. The majority of what I've been hearing is if the man's already in that level, like he's already got his foot through the door, then sure, all this advice that works. But if you haven't even gone past that the door, then what's the point? You couldn't even get the elevator. The elevator ain't working in your building. What's the point of trying to ascend? What is the point? So that's what it kind of comes back down to. So when it comes to the white pill and black pill, I still believe that depending on the individual and depending on how bad it is for him, if it's really bad, then there's no really point in pressing start in the video game. If you can't beat the first boss in Dark Souls, what's the fucking point in playing the game at all?
All right. Okay. Well, fair enough. And then Josh, the closing statement for yourself. The floor is yours for 5 minutes.
I think that at the end of the day, we all know how women are. And you know, like you gotta kind of. There's something endearing about it, though. I know this is overall it's a very black pilling discussion because it seems like there's no way up. It seems like we're at the bottom of a pit here. But you do just gotta go out there, find the right one. You know, if it's a I can fix her situation, you got to do your best. But ultimately, at the end of the day, women are like this. It is the way it is. We're not facing any problems that every other man has faced throughout history. Julius Caesar, Napoleon, they all dealt with this. And you like what? You don't deserve it. So I think throwing our hands in the air and saying, "Man, these bitches be crazy," and then just going home, it's not the right attitude. You need to become a conqueror of property, of wealth, of money, and bitches. You do all these things, and that is where you will find your fulfillment. That is where this all is headed. Become a conqueror. But
And I
don't give
appreciate
up.
and I appreciate that. I want to say I appreciate both of you for appearing and showing up to debate. I know it was a long time to get this one scheduled, especially for Dark Cell. We've been trying to schedule this one for Dark Cell for what I feel like is 5 months almost now at this point. So thank you for bearing with us and getting us here. And I would also like to say too, this was like the first debate. Obviously, it probably wasn't the first kind of topic many people were expecting for NAV, but it is one. And I would like to say this too for people who are, pretty anti where Dark Cell is at. Dark Cell does represent a large faction of men in this country. And so I do feel it is imperative that we do hear what their problems are, as much as you may disagree with them. And that is the point of NAV here, which is you will probably hear points and people pushing arguments that you may not like to hear. But the idea is that there are people that hold those beliefs. And so this is the correct form to challenge them and see them have discussions, and maybe we can convert people one way or another. But with that, thank you both for being a part of this. I do have one more super chat I'll go ahead and read. It looks like it was a response to you, Josh. And it was here from GeoGasser again. He said, "You did not get my point, Josh. I'm not saying you should not strive, just that two things are tied together." And one thing I would like to add too, we will provide for a slot for questions, not in this debate, but for debates later on. We'll probably add another 20 to 30 minutes at the end of debates to allow you guys to have questions for either side. But thank you for bearing with us. I appreciate everybody for being here. And again, subscribe, smash the like button if you're not already. Subscribe to all of the NAV creators. They should be in the description below. If they're not, I'll add it on to it later. But thank you again, Dark Cell. Thank you again, Josh Vandernord. This has been NAV. This is the New America Vision. We are the one network not afraid to say Christ is King. Everybody have a good rest of your day. We will see you all tomorrow at Saturday, 8 p.m. for the Groiper Report, and then on Sunday at 4 p.m. for the Founder Show. We're probably going to learn a